Hi, I'm Michael Ward, and I'm going to be talking today about the Royal Court Theatre in London. I want to start out with a brief history of the Royal Court Theatre. The original Royal Court was built in 1818, and it was started out as the Ranelagh Chapel, which I'm sure I just butchered the name of that. But then it was converted to the Belgravia Theatre, and then later it was renamed the Royal Court. The original building was actually destroyed in 1887, and then it was rebuilt in 1888. It was developed as a receiving house with the reputation for radical pioneering theater. So from the beginning it always was on the edge and always pushed the boundaries of theater arts. The next big thing that happened was the World War II, and it was bombed during the Blitz, and so it sat derelict due to the bombing for over 12 years before someone opened it back up. Then in 1952 it reopened with extensive repairs, and that was provided by the London Theatre Guild. In 1969 they opened the upstairs theater as a studio, and this is where they would do more of their radical plays, more of their more intense plays, and that's how it stayed since then. For 5 years the players that were using the Royal Court Theatre relocated because the Royal Court received £18.8 million from the National Lottery, and they were able to take that money and do a complete refurbish rehaul of the theater. And when they reopened with the Jerwood Theatre downstairs and the Jerwood Theatre upstairs. As you can see, I am sitting here in the Jerwood Theatre downstairs, and not really, I'm actually on a green screen. I totally fooled you. Whoa, what was that? Yeah, that was for you, Doc. Anyway, I'm here, what looks like the Jerwood downstairs, sitting in the seats. Something that's really interesting that they told me while I was on my tour of the place was the very back row that you can see back there is what they call the writer's row, and this is where the writers come in and they sit and they take notes during the performances and during the rehearsals and things like that and make changes. So that was just kind of a neat thing that I wanted to point out for all the playwrights that might be watching this. I wanted to really take the next few minutes and just talk about my experience of going to the Royal Court Theatre and seeing a production there. The thing that first hit me was it was a very, very welcoming place and a very welcoming environment. And I found out that they keep the Royal Court Theatre open during business hours every day. Anyone can come in that would like to, simply to use the restroom or to go into the bar or go to one of the many areas where you could just sit and write and relax. You could go to a place called the Ladies' Room, which is not a ladies' room. It's open to everybody. It used to be a ladies' room, but has been redone into kind of a reading area. That's really interesting because it's kind of a book share program. You bring a book, you leave a book, you take a book, you bring one back, and just kind of a nice quiet corner where people can sit and relax and read. Another interesting thing about the Royal Court Theatre is they've just recently changed their restroom policy to gender neutral because they want all of their patrons to feel comfortable when they come into the theater. On my tour, I met my guide who was, I was actually his very first tour, and it was just the two of us. So I was able to go to some places that normally people don't get to go to. I did take some pictures along the way that I'll show as I go through this. In places that I was able to take pictures, some places they didn't want me to take pictures, but there's some amazing things that I learned along the way and in getting there. And my guide Jerome was very, very helpful And one of the things that first caught my eye was the painting of the area right outside of the theater. And I'm going to let Jerome talk to you for a second a little bit about that.
Wall, painted by Anthony Malinowski. I'm sure as some of our patrons do appreciate art, would love this. And the idea behind it is that it's one of very few paintings now that use vermilion in the paint. I think from the Roman times, I think is when they used it. But anyway, right now, very few paintings that use actual vermilion in their paint. And the idea is that the white marks that you can see is the idea that it's just catching the light. And what Anthony will do, I think a couple of years ago, came in and just touched it up. But it's supposed to show you the passage of light. What I love about it is that it kind of holds the threshold, and it's for the Jerwood Theatre downstairs on all 3 levels. And basically on the outside, you come in, your normal life, this is how we live, that's, great. And then what happens is, as you go through the doors, that's where you go into somebody else's world. That's where you go into the writer's world, and that's where we want you to concentrate and look at the work that's happening. You will never get sold a playtest inside. You will never get sold an ice cream inside, which a lot of commercial venues will do. When you are inside, you're in another world, and that's what I love about this painting, is that you're going past what I normally am, and I'm going to go into someone else's world, and I'm going to see something else.
Love it.
So that's what I love about this.
Now, as we went into the theater, the downstairs Jerwood Theater, it was absolutely gorgeous. Seeing the stage made me just want to jump up there. I couldn't, but I wanted to. They were cleaning the carpet. Apparently the show that they were doing had a lot of blood in it and a white carpet, and so every night they have to take the carpet up, clean it, and then put the carpet back down. And there is a gentleman that I got to meet there that was his responsibility. But looking at it, it's an absolutely beautiful space. The chairs are done in leather, which, a lot of theaters don't do that, just mainly for cost, because it's expensive. But the artistic director, he demanded this because when he wanted people to come and to sit down in the theater, he wanted them to be able to relax and not think about their backside hurting while they're watching a play of any kind of length. And my father, being a minister, used to say that the brain can only comprehend as much as the seat will allow. And so I agree with that, and think that it was really an interesting and great choice. And being able to sit in one of those chairs, I can tell you, even for a big man like me, they were very comfortable. The theater is actually known for not being, 2D or 3D, but actually a 4-dimensional experience. And my guide told me, and he took me down into this little room that I wasn't able to take a picture of, and it's underneath the seats. And the seats, if you look underneath them, have a drainage system, and this is if water is used or anything in one of the performances, it can drain down. But they have access to that. And in one of the shows, there was an actor that was supposed to be tossing gasoline on, I believe he said it was like a vehicle that they had on stage. And he said the audience thought, they knew immediately, oh, that's just water. But what they were able to do was to recreate the smell of gasoline, and down from this little room, they could actually pump that in through those drains to where the audience, as they're sitting there, all of a sudden smells the gasoline. So they've done this on several occasions, adding smell to the performance, which gives it just a much more authentic feel and more intimate, like you're actually there and this is really happening in front of you. The stage in the downstairs theater provides lots of ways to do different sets. Although it is set up for the stage to raise and lower, they are not able to do that right now. One, because they have the understage area using it as storage, which everyone knows in any theater, storage is always very, very precious space to come across. The other reason is they would have to rework the hydraulic system and that would be very costly for them to do that, and they haven't had need to raise or lower the stage in a while, and so they decided to put that off for now, especially since they need the storage. It's a beautiful space, as you can see in these pictures of shows that have been done in the downstairs Jerwood Theater. And on the second floor there is the Samuel French bookshop. It used to be run by the Royal Court, but Samuel French has put an actual bookshop in there where you can buy plays that are on right now, or you can buy plays that have been on in the past, and you can buy other plays that Sam French offers in the bookstore right there. Downstairs is really an amazing restaurant and bar. They even have their own beer that's brewed for them, and I did sample it, and yes, it was quite tasty. I would have it again if I could go back. They have a fairly extended menu with both vegetarian and vegan options, which I think is really nice. It's a place where you can go and sit and have a couple of drinks and a meal before a show or after the show. It was full of people just relaxing, having some drinks, having some food, getting ready to go to the theater. And it really did create kind of a calmness and a relaxing space, so that you were ready and your mind was ready to go in and experience the theater that they were going to be producing that day. All right, I want to talk for a little bit about the play that I saw there. And you walk up probably 25 stairs straight up. And it's almost like you're walking up into someone's attic. And when you get there, you realize it is a black box theater, so it can be set up in any number of ways. And for this show, it was set up in more of a proscenium style of theater. And the seats that, they move around, they're very interesting, and I'll show you a picture of those, in that they're meant to look like luggage, like old suitcases, old trunks, so that you get the feeling like you're sitting on an old trunk or an old suitcase to watch this show in someone's attic. Each one of the actresses has actually experienced prison life. Show starts out and you realize immediately that this is not going to be the rough and tumble TV prison drama. It was very funny because the first thing that they did was make fun of the Shawshank Redemption. And throughout the play, they make fun of and poke fun at other shows, movies that have been about prison life and how it's so much different than what it is in real life. It really does feel intimate, being that it is a small space. The actors, we sat, I believe, on the third row, and I felt like I was right there with them the entire time. They did do some interactive things, asking for audience participation, which again made it interactive, and I enjoyed that. They played a card game where they would each get different things that they would have to say, and they played it over and over, and so that's different every time of what they're saying. But I think the one thing that really made it quite interesting, they did use a combination of live acting, as well as they had scenes from the auditions of the ladies that were in the show, that they would appear behind them in projection. But I think for me, the most powerful moment was you would hear the voices of, I'm guessing, Stacey Gregg and Deborah Pearson asking questions of them and their answers. And then the question was asked after we had sat there for an hour and a half, laughing, sometimes tearing up a bit, all at the same time, which I think is probably one of the hardest things to accomplish as an actor, out of your audience. But the last moment, one of them, you hear the voice ask, "Can you tell me something that happened in prison that you just laughed and you thought was just funny and just a funny experience?" And when that happened, you could still hear the recording, and it was silent, and all four of the ladies were standing there, downlit, and they just stood there in silence. And it was so powerful in that moment that even though they're now kind of poking fun at other things and talking about their experiences in prison and making people laugh, there was no laughter there. So I felt like that, and the way that that ended was just an amazing experience. And really enjoyed Inside Bitch, and hope that it does well and will actually come to America. One of the problems with it, though, is the actresses that do this particular show are not allowed to travel outside of the UK because of their records. One of the actresses talked about how she had been in 2 different Shakespearean plays and could not travel to the US because of her record. And so that record is still causing them problems today. I think my takeaway from the whole experience of going and touring and seeing the Royal Court performance for me was, I want that. And not in a greedy sort of way, but more of I wish I could have that kind of place in my hometown. A place that's willing to work with writers, a place that is open for people to come in, and that is open to trying new things. One of the things that Jerome said was they're open to fail. They hope they don't fail, but if they fail, they fail. If you don't like the show, we'll give you your money back. But it's a place where they're willing to try things. They're willing to do what other people won't do. So I was thinking, I live in Tyler, Texas, where we're known as the rose capital of the world. And when I got back, I was trying to think, how can I start the Royal Rose and fashion it after the Royal Court, because it seems like such an amazing place to work and see theater in. Hope this has been interesting and you haven't fallen asleep by now, but that's what I have about the Royal Court and the play that I got to see there, Inside Bitch. Thanks for watching. Bye. What am I doing? Hello, I'm Michael Ward, and I'm going to be talking you to... Why can't I speak, Tracy? Jesus Christ.
Camera.
Ah, okay.
Camera. You can speak just fine.
Okay, all right. Hello, I'm Michael Ward, and today I'm going to be talking about the Royal Court Theatre in London, and don't know what else I'm going to say. Okay.
Like, you can type until somebody's watching you do it.
Yeah, and I get upset with other people, and now I look like the asshole.